Welcome, everyone. You are here for the September 23rd, 2001 BMZA docket. I'm just going to go through a few things as to how WebEx works. If you look at your screen, the bottom of your screen, there's 3 dots that say more options, right? It'll give you some information there. There's a chat to the lower right-hand corner. If you need to testify or have additional information, you can put it in the chat. The 3 dots next to that, let's see, there is a hand raise function as well. So you can raise your hand. When your case is called, I'll make you a panelist and make sure that your camera is functional and we'll be able to see you. There's 2 ways you can testify. Again, using the chat, 2 ways to let me know you wish to testify, using the chat feature or raising your hand. Please do not put anything in the Q&A because I don't have that one open, and that's just one more thing for me to open. All right. Order of testimony will be as follows. The applicant, followed by support for the application, opposition, and then the applicant gets the last word and testimony will close on the matter. If you have any issues with WebEx, please call our office, 410-396-4301. If you're having technical difficulties and can't participate for whatever reason, you may email a motion of reconsideration explaining your technical difficulties and what you would have testified to. All right, just a couple WebEx pointers. Sometimes we have issues with feedback for WebEx, so I would ask that everybody stay muted unless they're ready to speak. Make sure you identify before you speak. Mute yourself again when you're not speaking. Speak slowly, clearly. Be patient with yourself and others, myself included. If you wear headphones, sometimes that cuts down on the background noise. The hearing will be recorded. For attendees who do call in and wish to testify, you will hear 2 beeps when you are unmuted. If you're unable to connect to audio, please use the chat feature. All right. If we cannot hear you, we'll direct you to try to call back in. Order of events. The board members for today's hearing, the cases will be called by the chair and will proceed through the entire docket. The case may not be called in the order in which it appears on the docket on the website. So everybody please stay alert. At the conclusion of the hearing, the chair will close testimony and the board will deliberate. There'll be no further testimony taken and no further comments permitted. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, then I'll add my little spiel on how it is we're going to get there to the end. The board will vote on each case at the end of the docket, unless during the hearing portion there's some reason that we need to defer or delay. You're certainly welcome to continue to stay logged in to hear the deliberations. Of course, you will not be able to participate in deliberations. In any event, you can contact the BMZA office tomorrow morning to hear or learn of the decision after 9 a.m. The number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. In any event, you should expect to receive your resolution in the mail within approximately 30 days. We ask that you not do any work until you have received your resolution, and of course, don't do any work within Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. There are no postponements on the docket. There is a case that has been withdrawn, so if anybody's on the line and waiting to hear case number 2020-238, 721 Radnor Avenue, the appellant was Olin Olner. That matter has been withdrawn, so we'll not be going forward with that case. We do have a number of consents that I will call first, and we can get those individuals on the line and go through that consent docket. I also want to welcome the acting executive director, Katie Byrne, who's doing an admirable job. And again, this is new to all of us, even whatever number virtual hearing this is, and anything can happen. And Ms. Byrne, I will mention that I do hear some reverb and feedback when I hear you speak. I don't know if anybody hears it when I'm speaking, but again, that's one of the hallmarks of the time we're in. So bear with us, and we'll get through this. So I'm going to call the consent cases. Let me call the first consent case. We can read my notes here. Case number 2020-239, 311 East Landvale Street. The appellant is Amir Izzat, and the request of the appellant is to construct a deck in the rear of the property. And do we have can we find Mr. Izzat on the line?
All right, I do not see his name listed, but let me try some Callin users to see if I can get them here. Mr. Izzat? All right, I do not see Mr. Azad here. Let me look in the chat, see if he's in the chat. All right, so Mr. Azad it says Daniel, so must be Daniel. Let me go back to attendees. There we are. Mr. Azat, is that you?
Hello?
Mr. Azat?
My name is Daniel.
Okay. Are you here for 311 East Landvale?
No, I'm here for 2020-45, 200 North Monroe.
Okay. That's all right. I'm gonna have to mute you. Not wrong one. All right, Mr. Azat. If you're here, please put a message in the chat. Oh, there you are. All right. Unmute.
Hello. And there we
Mr.
go.
Azat. There we go.
Great.
Good afternoon,
This is
Mr. Azat.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. So this is case number 2020-239, and this was a request to construct a deck in the rear of the property.
Correct.
Let me see if do we have any staff reports from staff and or planning for this property.
All right. We do. Just 1 second.
In the meantime, Mr. Chairman, Martin
Yes,
French
sir.
for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning
Yes,
Department
Mr.
has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Very well, thank you, Mr. French.
All right, for staff report, it's let's see, it's a variance to lot coverage and rear yard. Let's see. The board's within its authority to go ahead and grant this. The maximum lot coverage, it's existing structure coverage 67%. The proposed coverage will increase the lot coverage to 95% of the lot. And the rear yard is, the proposed deck will go out an additional 12 feet into the rear yard within 4 feet of the rear yard lot line.
Okay. Very well. Mr. Azat, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
I guess I would if there was negative feedback, but so far it hasn't sounded like that.
No, there isn't any. And there's no requirement that you do add anything. At least I want to offer that opportunity to you.
I appreciate
Complete the
that.
record. Okay, so if there's nothing else you'd like to add, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
You too.
All right, calling the case of 2020-248, 1226 West North Avenue, Mr. Adam Carballo. This is a request to construct a two-story rear addition. And while we get Mr. Carballo on the line, I'll hear from staff and planning.
All right, Martin, would you mind going first so I can get this report out?
No, it's quite all right.
Thank you.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted this property is in the Druid Heights Urban Renewal Plan area. There are specific exterior standards that apply to rehabilitation of property in this particular urban renewal area. And the applicant is encouraged to consult Appendix B of that plan for details before finalizing plans for the renovation of the existing structure. Subject to that, the Department of Planning recommends approval of this application, subject to the approval of plans for renovation of the existing structure by the Planning Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Okay, no letters in support or opposition. The staff report mirrors what Mr. French stated regarding the requirements.
Very well.
And I will unmute Mr. Caraballo.
Okay.
Mr. Caraballo? Mr. Caraballo?
I don't have anything to add.
Great. And I don't have to ask you if you have anything to add. That being said, Mr. Caballo, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal for case number 2020-248. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next consent case, case number 2020-254, 925 Ramsay Street. The appellant is Steve Wheeler, and this is a request also to construct a two-story rear addition. And I'll hear from staff and planning, or planning and staff.
All right, I do not think we have a planning report for this one. So 925 Ramsey. 1 second.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, no letters in support or opposition for this one. And the staff report, it's a rear yard variance for the two-story dwelling addition. So they need a variance to the minimum rear yard. And let's see. And I know it's Mr. Wheeler, but I do not see Mr. Wheeler here in the attendees. Try again. And we'll see if he's one of the Callin users. Mr. Wheeler, if you're here, if you could put in the chat, please, so I could try to identify you from the attendees. All right, I do not believe Mr. Wheeler is here. Nothing in the chat.
Of course, if there's anyone here who's online on behalf of Steve Wheeler for case number 2020-254, we'd ask that you raise your virtual hand or otherwise make yourself known. Okay. All right. And I can certainly come back to
We can try to come back to that one. Hopefully he'll be
back
here.
to 2020-254. We move on to the next consent case. Case number 2020-260, 260, a 926 Bennett Place. The appellant is William Brodus, and this is a request to continue to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 2 dwelling units. Now hear from staff and planning. In either order.
There was no planning recommendation for this one. It's essentially a multifamily with 2 dwelling units, less lot area than required in an R8 district within the board's authority to approve. No letters of support or opposition. And I believe Mr. Brodus is the applicant, and I will unmute him. Mr.
Mr.
Broadus?
French, you want to just weigh in very briefly?
Officially, Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I think I wrote it.
Mr. Broadus?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to speak up, sir. You're a little faint. Mr. Brodus, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
This was an original two-dwelling unit, and we're trying to continue to keep it as a two-dwelling unit.
Oh, very well. Well, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day. Final. Well, we'll get back to 254. The next consent case is 2020-262, 821 South Montford Avenue. The appellant is Stephen Kupati. This is a request to construct a two-story rear addition and rooftop deck. And I'll hear any reports, if any, from staff and planning.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
There is a letter of support from the Canton Community Association. It's to construct a two-story addition rooftop deck and requires a rear yard setback. And that's all I have for that one.
Okay, and I see Mr. Kupati is on the line, or
Yes, he is. Let me. Mr. Habati up. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, Mr. Habati.
Yes, good morning.
good morning and afternoon to you, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No.
Very well. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay. I could try the other consent case at the end, but do you want to just see if that little bit of time gave Mr. Wheeler an opportunity to
Yes.
designate?
All right.
I don't see anybody.
I don't see anyone either. Let's see. And I don't see I don't see anything else in the chat.
All right. I tell you what, we can, I guess we can move on to the regular docket. Just
Okay,
a reminder to at least call that case again before we close out
right.
the regular docket, and otherwise that would be a no-show. All right, so calling the case of 2020-050, 200 North Monroe Street. The appellant is Daniel Bissey. This is a request to continue to use the ground floor of the premises as a grocery store. You know, hear reports from staff and planning.
Martin, would you mind going first?
All right, Planning Department
Thank
reviewed this application. Noted that this particular property is one which has a record of non-residential use. This particular property was last used as a grocery store, which in the zoning code is characterized as a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales in the R7 zoning district where this property is located. The first problem that the Planning Department noted with the application was that the plan that was attached to the application included a proposed first floor plan. It was titled Pizza Carryout. And a carryout food shop is a use that is prohibited in the R7 zoning district, and it's also a use that's not authorized as a type of neighborhood commercial establishment by the zoning code. And therefore, the department encouraged the applicant to clarify exactly what the use of the property would be. On that basis, the department is recommending that approval of this application be granted only if there is no carryout food shop created in connection with the retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales for which this approval is requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
So we have a few letters in opposition. The one for this is Let's see. 2020-50, 200 North Monroe. A petition signed by 75 people. We, the residents of Lexington, Monroe, Penrose, Saratoga, and North Peyton, would like to appeal the zoning board for the approval of the reopening of a grocery store located at 200 North Monroe. The crime loitering that affected our community during the previous tenure of this store was unbearable. Since this establishment has been closed, there's been less crime loitering in the neighborhood. We, the community residents, ask that you not approve reopening of this establishment. In addition, there is a letter in opposition from Mary Pat Clark. Problems she points out. Let's see. Oh, nope, sorry, wrong one. Strike that last letter in opposition. Let's see. Again, another letter in opposition from Carolyn Claiborne regarding noise, trash, people sitting around cars, that there's a market already at Monroe and Fayette within 2 blocks. And to piggyback on, planning department recommends approval of the application only if there's no carryout food shop. So the board could not approve this as a carryout food shop. There are only certain things within section 14.328 of neighborhood commercial establishments that the board can approve that use for. And I believe Daniel is the applicant. Are you ready for me to unmute him?
Yep. Mr. Bissy?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Tell us about your project and particularly the use that you envision for this, and specifically confirm that there will be no carryout or alcoholic beverages sold there.
Yes, sir. We just try to open a grocery store. No, we don't sell alcohol and we don't sell any food. And we have also some couple friends on the neighborhood who they want a store close to a neighborhood so they can come and get whatever they need, like a snack, like a juice, or eggs or anything like that. But it's nothing like we trying to anything like that.
How familiar are you with that property?
I have a one more store close to that area on a Baltimore and Fulton. I have a store over there. So people who come to my store down there, they told me why I don't open this store because they walk too far. That's why we have tried to open the store.
Okay.
And in my store, we sell only a milk, egg, snack, candy, and stuff. We don't sell anything. We don't sell no food or no alcohol product, and only juice and sodas.
Do you sell cigarettes?
Yeah, in my store, on the Baltimore Street, we sell a pack secret, not like just pack.
Are there security cameras set up outside?
Of course, we have it like a 4 security camera outside, 4 in my store right now.
Are they connected to City Watch? Do you know?
Yes.
They are. Okay. What about lighting outside?
Yeah, and I have myself personal. I have like a 5 light outside. My street is very clean. I have 5 light outside.
And then the last question I have is what hours?
We open 10 o'clock in the morning and close at 9 p.m.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Akin. Any additional questions for Mr. Bissy at this point from the board?
No.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Yes,
let you
sir.
know, I've been dumped out of this WebEx meeting 3 times now. Is anybody else having that problem?
Uh-oh. Bill, when you've been dumped out, can you hear us at all?
I can hear you now, yeah, but I've had to re-sign in 3 times.
Okay. Okay.
And a question from Katie on this one.
Sure.
You mentioned Mary Pat Clark. Did she take a position?
No, I pulled the wrong file. She's, that's Harford Road, not this one.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. I guess we can hear from anyone else, either in support or if there is no additional support, then whoever else may be on the line to be heard on this matter.
All right, and I'm going to ask if you're here either in support or in opposition for 200 North Monroe to please put in the chat, and so that I can identify you and I can unmute you. I have one call-in user. Are you here for 200 North Monroe? No. All right, I believe that's it for, let's see. I don't see anything else in the chat for anybody wishing else to speak on 200 North Monroe.
I don't see any raised hands either. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now, I guess that concludes the testimony for that one, and we can move on.
Yeah, Mr. Bissey, just one final, well, we didn't hear any opposition or any other testimony. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close this matter?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, that concludes 2020-050. Moving on to the next case on the regular docket, case number 2020-144, 2628 Harford Road. The appellant is Natasha Watson, and this is a request to use the premises as a community health center. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Martin, I would like to defer to you first, please. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Katie. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the C1 zoning district. The last use of the property, according to records available to the Planning Department, was a single-family dwelling, but the building has been abandoned, and it does not appear to have had a more recent use listed in the city records. The application that was presented states that the applicant, RCC Community Services, would provide health and wellness checkups, substance abuse counseling and treatment, HIV and hepatitis C screenings, family counseling, and contraceptive management and family planning services. The application does not state proposed days and hours of operation, nor any estimate of how many persons or families might be present at any one time on the property. This property is not a corner property. It's on a well-trafficked major thoroughfare in northeast Baltimore, and it does not presently provide any place for safe drop-off or pickup of patients at this location. The property itself is 14 feet wide, 90 feet deep. Basically, it's a standard row house property in terms of the lot layout. The property is also located in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello urban renewal area. The urban renewal plan does not prohibit this proposed use at this location. The department's primary concern is that this is a very small property, and given the large number of services that are proposed to be provided, there would need to be sufficient places for people to wait for their appointments if they are arriving by appointment only. The other concern of the department is that there may be large numbers of people congregating on the sidewalk out front while awaiting their turn to enter the building. The department is therefore recommending disapproval of the application because the proposed site for the community health center is not appropriate for this proposed use, given the multiple services, as recited previously, proposed in the application, the number of persons who would avail themselves of these services, and the absence of safe places for drop-off and pickup of patients and visitors, or of an enclosed place for them to await their appointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
All right, so the applicant is looking for it's a conditional use that the board would need to grant. And additional, they would need a variance to parking, requires 3 off-street three off-street parking spaces, and the appellant hasn't demonstrated that off-street parking will be provided. So they would need a full variance to parking as well. And I will go ahead and put Miss Natasha Watson on unmute as the applicant. Ms. Watson?
Hello. I wasn't sure how to get my video to pop up. Is that something necessary or?
That's not necessary unless you want to.
Not necessary unless you want to.
No,
Unless you'd like to
no
share
worries.
something with us.
Share something with us.
No, just my smiling face. That's all. I look the same as I did last time I saw you guys a few months ago. So
Okay.
I am here to appeal, I guess, that appeal, and I just wanted to let the board know that we own several buildings on that Hartford Road street there, and our church is about three rows down, and we have not had any complaints or issues with parking whatsoever in my 37 years attending that church. And
What church are you referencing, ma'am?
2616 Hartford Road is the Redeemed Church of Christ. It's been there for about 45 years, 46 years, and it can hold up to 500 people. There's never an issue with parking for our regular services. And I know this is a separate property, but one of the main things Mary Pat Clark said was parking and loitering. We don't have that issue now at our church, and we do homeless services there. We have, obviously weddings and funerals are rare, but we're there every Sunday. And we also, before COVID, were meeting on Wednesday and Friday evenings and some Saturdays. So my clinic or the health center, the hours are gonna only be limited to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I also work a full-time job. I'm a nurse practitioner elsewhere. And I'm the medical director here where I'm at now. I work Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at another clinic, and I'm only going to be there at the 2628 location Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 5. As far as the parking, we do have a parking pad that they've built for me. It can serve 2 regular size vehicles or trucks in the back. And there is side street parking on Gorsuch and then on Hartford as well. Due to COVID especially, and because of also the concerns of those that are going against what I'd like to do, we are going to be doing only appointment-based services. So there will not be walk-ins. Everything will be appointment-based. And the way we've set up the inside, there is an area for patients to wait prior to being seen by the clinician. So loitering and parking were the 2 main issues that they had. And also they were concerned, Mary Pat Clark and the others, Mr. Washington, was concerned that there wasn't a need for what I wanted to do in the area, and that they wanted to do like a coffee shop or something else. But I've spent money to gut out this home and to beautify it, to make it seem welcoming community center, and we want to use it for that. There is a need for it. I do have a wait list of patients that want to be seen. They used to see me at another clinic in Baltimore City, and they follow me where I go, basically, and they are looking forward to starting to receive care at this location. And the building, I really want you to hear this, has been vacant. I'm 37, and since I've been alive, I have not seen the building in use or not dilapidated. So I wish I knew about this process. I told you ahead of time, because I would not have used my money to gut it out and fix it up. I had no idea we would be going through all this red tape just to offer a service to the community. But I do understand and have taken into account that loitering is something that is not going to be tolerated. And also the safety for parking, of course. We will do our best to make that more accessible for patients. And partly doing that, we will have certain scheduled appointments and no walk-ins, and they will be able to use our parking pad in the rear of the building.
Ms. Watson, you mentioned were you here before us for another for a community health center at a different location?
Oh, no, sir. No, I was telling you that I currently work in another location. I'm a medical director at another clinic, and I'm still going to keep that job, but I'm using this building. My father, who's the pastor of the Redeemed Church of Christ and owned a lot of these properties, he expired in October 2nd. And he helped me get out this building along with the trustees. And our goal and his dream is to own all the property on that block and to offer services to the community. And this is just one small piece of the grand scheme of what we want to do on that 2600 block of Harford Road. No, I did not do an appeal with you for another building. I did an appeal, I think 2 months ago. It's been a while. 2 months ago, I had an appeal for this building, 2628. And what you guys told me to do was to meet with Mary Pat Clark and Mr. Washington and the Coldstream Montebello Harford Road community and see what I could do to make my proposition more favorable. I did that. I went out with some others from my church and we did a petition, and we had names and addresses so that you wouldn't think that we, falsified this. We have names and addresses and phone numbers of residents. And what it says is, "Dear Sir or Madam, RCC Community Services is a community health service center that would like to offer the following services to your community." And I have it listed here. Monday, the hours of operation will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I listed the services, and we went around and did a petition to see if really this was not something that the community would receive. And I got the opposite. Almost everyone we spoke to was in favor of having this center in their neighborhood.
Have you submitted this petition as part of the record?
With the meeting we had with, not to you guys, no, but to the Mary Pat Clark and Mr. Washington, and their response was, you can get a petition from anybody. It could have been people in your church. And that is why we had everyone put their address on this. I didn't know this was something you'd want to see, but
I don't
did
know.
share this with.
If it's something you want the board to consider, you have to submit that so it's part of the record.
Okay, no problem. Can I email it to Roxanne or
Sure.
the young lady who set me up with this? I can send it to her.
Okay.
Did you have any questions for me as far as any other questions? I'm not sure what else.
There may be some once we hear the opposition. But in the interim, you mentioned that your petition listed the services that are being provided. What does that petition say?
Yep. Okay. So services that will be offered. So as a licensed clinician, I'm able to teach certain courses as well. So I wrote here that I'd like to offer CPR classes and CMT training. We got it out the top room, and it's a very large room we can use for like a classroom area. I also said counseling. I do have some friends that are counselors and willing to offer those services to me. So mental health counseling, substance abuse treatment, primary care, and urgent care, and DOT physicals. I took out the pediatric things. So when I met with Mary Platt Clark and Mr. Washington, it was a couple of others that are a part of the chum community. They gave me some suggestions. They said, you're trying to do too much in this little space, and it's possible, but we don't want all of that. So I cut out some things. For example, they mentioned pediatric care. We don't see that happening. Urgent care, we don't want that because that's usually walk-in care. So I've taken that into consideration, and it is on this petition, but I'm not going to offer this because they asked me not to. Urgent care and pediatric and GYN care, I've removed because the CHUM board thought that those things would draw, random loitering or just random walk-ins. So it says the counseling, primary care, substance abuse treatment, and some courses will be DOT physicals, which is for the Department of Transportation, doing a wellness exam, no different than a regular physical. And the training courses that I will offer on the sheet, it says CMT training and CPR classes. And those are all things I'm licensed and certified to do as an adult and psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Okay, you mentioned that you had some mental health counselors who would be in a position to work with you. You know how many employees you intend to, or age you would
I would be
have in the building at any one time?
I would be the primary clinician, and I'm hoping to get just one counselor. There's only 3 rooms, so they're large, very large, but it would just be 3 of us. My front desk, my sister's a nurse, and she would be the triage intake person, and I'm the clinician, and then a counselor is someone I really want on board, because that is something that is needed in the community, even more so than all the other things I would love to do. Counseling and the mental health is something you cannot have too much of in the city of Baltimore.
Well, any questions from the board at this time?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting a really I'm getting an echo when I speak also.
Yeah, I hear it as well, Bill.
You can hear it?
I didn't hear him.
Yeah, he's getting an echo when we're all speaking, including himself.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate you to a panelist, and Ms. Watson, please mute yourself when you're not speaking.
I have a question for Ms. Byrne.
Yes.
In my packet, I don't see anything, any statement from Mark Washington, Chum, or Mary Pat Clark.
There was a letter from Mary Pat Clark back in November, I think, when this matter was first before the board for the November hearing. And in summary, she says that Chum, and let's see, essentially what her letter says is that the row house is too small and it's inadequate for the space for what they're trying to do here. And she opposed the appeal, and also had spoken with them, and they also opposed the appeal. I see in the chat that Mark Washington is here, and there are several other people from the neighborhood that wish to testify in opposition.
Is the new council person, does she have a letter in there?
No, but I think Ms. Ramos is here in the as an attendee.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, who's the council person?
Odette Ramos.
Okay. All right, well, we can begin to.
All right, so we'll go
Some of these
ahead
folks
and get that started. All right, I'll start with you, Mr. Washington. Let me get to you. Mr. Washington?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
We can, Mr. Washington, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you all for this time today. First, I think it needs to be stated and made plain and clear. A, Chum opposes, and B, Chum, as perhaps inaccurately misportrayed, we do not need another drug treatment facility in the community. I just want to make that clear up front. A few years back, during our planned urban development process, the survey of Chum residents listed their preferred and primary objectives for the Harford Road area. Their preferred and primary uses for the Harford Road area were grocery store, pharmacy, mixed-use retail with residential, coffee shop / Starbucks, restaurant dining with outdoor seating. Given that the area is already served by not one, but 2 well-known healthcare facilities, Union Memorial Shepherd Clinic and Wellness Center and Total Healthcare at the Doris Johnson, she's our founder of Chum Medical Center, this proposed use request by RCC is already being fulfilled. In addition to that, there are 3 other facilities that provide the same services right at the park's edge within walking distance. Redeemed Church of Christ does not currently have experience offering healthcare in our community, but they do contribute to unhealthy outcomes and addiction in our community. In the same block of Harford Road where they want to open this treatment facility, they own a building being used as a liquor store so problematic to the community that previously Chum challenged it before the liquor board. The drug dealing and crime associated with the liquor store is so notable that the city had to install city watch cameras. The community asked the church not to renew the liquor store's lease in order to protect the health and safety of our residents, but they refused our request. RCC is already profiting from our residents' dependence on alcohol, and now they're coming to the zoning board to ask if they can profit even more from the addiction they've helped perpetuate. The Chum to develop objectives for the structures along Harford Road that overlook the park, one of our most valuable locations, is for them to remain as market rate housing options, similar to what you have in Patterson Park, to help drive the area housing market and attract new residents and home buyers. Our mission is to expand housing and home ownership in the area while improving the property values for existing homeowners. We are looking to restore the benefits of building generational wealth that home ownership provides, not diminish it by making poor planning decisions that would undermine the stability of the investment currently being made by the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland to implement the community's redevelopment plans, such as market rate housing of new construction across from Clifton Park on Harford Road at the Tivoli Triangle, the fact that we put $47 million into a brand new school directly opposite where they want to offer a treatment center, and the fact that we've been able to orchestrate and arrange a deal with Morgan University to partner with us on creating a college town environment. I just want to say this in conclusion. This decision should not be made in a vacuum. There will be long-lasting consequences, detrimental or otherwise, with any decision made here today. I only hope that history will judge that a wise one was made.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. I'll move on to Ms. Ramos. Ms. Ramos?
Yes, hi there. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Go ahead, Councilman.
Great. Thank you all for your time this afternoon in dealing with this matter. I'm here to be the supporter of the community's wishes on this property. And I ask for you to, continue with what the staff had recommended, which is disapproval of this application. Mark said it best, so I don't need to repeat the case that he made about what the neighborhood is striving for moving forward and the need to preserve this property so that we can use it for commercial corridor to meet the needs of the neighbors and also to promote the area. Also, I just want to point out that it looks like when staff was going through the proposal, there were no operating hours and other kinds of plans for parking, etc. The fact that the application was incomplete might also tell you that some of the details that are needed to run a place like this may not be followed through. And that is a major concern of mine as well. So I look forward to working with you all moving forward, and I'm enjoying serving in the 14th district so far. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I am backing the community on this and ask for your disapproval of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilperson.
Go ahead.
Councilperson.
Yes?
This is Bill Cunningham. Welcome to the BMZA.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate the opportunity. This is my first run through.
All right, I'll move on to Ms. April Lopez. Let me get you there. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Great. I am a community member. I live on East 31st Street. And as a community member, I would say, please disapprove this request. Additionally, for the stated supporters of the clinic, we ask that those people indicate their addresses so that we can be certain that they actually live in the community. For those who are saying they support this, as a community member, we highly disapprove of this move, and we ask that you will back the plan of the community for us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, and I believe we have one additional person. Marisa. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. Miss Marisa, go ahead.
Hey, hopefully you can hear me. This is Marisa. I'm also a community member. I'm on the board. I've lived in the community for 14 plus years and been part of trying to turn the community around and been successful. I have been before you all before for some other zoning issues with the store next door to me. I will say this, like Mark has mentioned, there are places for people to get services. We are concerned about the amorphous nature of what she is trying to, offer. And it seems like it, more likely than not, it will be more about a drug treatment center. And what we don't need on our Harford Road corridor is a bunch of people waiting for drugs, like drug services, standing there and everybody being able to see that. But we also have we have a clinic. We have the Shepherd Pratt Clinic. It's like 9 minutes walking distance from where she wants to set up. We have a new school where children who are seeking their nursing assistance license and pharmacy tech, like it's a tech school that, that's across the way from it, that has been totally redone. It's beautiful if you ever get a chance. The Reach Partnership School, it really just is not in line with what we're trying to create in the community. And, we have this long-term vision that we have been eking out over the decades, and we're making progress. And really, I ask that you help us continue to make progress. This is not what we need. And, I have a lot of concerns around parking. I have concerns around what's going to be offered there. I feel like, just even the missing details tells you just how well this is going to be run. And, the fact that it's a building that's already owned by a church that owns a liquor store, I mean, okay, make money coming and going, help people get addicted, and then say you want to help them get not addicted. I just have such issues with the whole thing. So I ask that you also disapprove this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I believe that's the last person. Let me see, I have one Callin user. Let me see if they're here for. Nope, looks like we've lost our Callin user. So we'll go back to Miss Washington. Miss Washington, I believe you can, I'm sorry, Miss Watson, you can unmute yourself.
I'm trying to figure out if we own a liquor store, because I know there's one on the corner, but I don't know that we have anything to do with that. I know we own some other houses on that same block. So what would you like me to say now? Because I can't offer, I told them this already with our meeting with Chum. I'm a healthcare provider. I can't offer any of the other additional services that they would like to see. I told Mr. Washington I can't do a coffee shop. Mary Pat Clark mentioned selling jewelry. I don't make jewelry. I do healthcare for a living, and I teach. So that's what I would like to offer my community, where I don't live in the area, but I grew up there. I'm there at least 3 days a week for several hours for services and whatnot. So this is what I can offer, and I would like you to take into consideration. I mean, you can give me restrictions. If Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 5 is a problem, I could switch that, but we've put money into the building already. It's no longer dilapidated. I haven't heard anyone say that it's beautiful now and that they've done a good job renovating it, and it's no longer an eyesore. And the services that I want to offer, I can be flexible with the time and the date. And I don't know if it's possible to give me like a 6-month window to prove myself, or a 3-month window. Again, you can look at the track record of our church. It's been there for Someone texted me that's on the line and said that it's been 45 years. Not whatever I said before was not long enough, but I don't believe there have been any issues with the church, and I am a part of the church. And that block is important to me, even though I don't live there. And using that building, again, all I can offer are healthcare services, and I do rent that building now. So we're gonna have to figure out what to do with this, because that is all that I can offer is what I told you.
Ms. Watson, are you familiar with the location of the other healthcare facilities that were raised by the opposition?
Total healthcare. Yep, I am.
And are they in fairly
The
close
school
proximity?
across the way, across the street, the school, I thought it was an elementary school. I didn't know that it was a health training school. But that's wonderful that that's what they do. And I'm able to teach a lot of these things that they probably teach there, I can do in my own place as well.
Okay.
It's my dad's church, and it is my, I have a lot of history on that block, in that building, and I would like to keep the income. I had the priority to use that building, especially once I was able to help with the gutting of it out and fixing it. So if this is not approved, it may remain vacant, and I guess, I don't know what the trustees will do with it. But right now it's empty. I mean, all my equipment is there. The exam rooms are there. The rooms are set up. It's ready to hit the ground running. Like I said, I have a wait list of patients that want to be seen. I'm just doing virtual visits now until we get a place. But if I am not able to use it for the proposed use, then what? You guys keep saying you want to do things with it, but it's owned by the church. I'm not sure how you would get to do that unless you rent it out from our church. They've already given me the agreement to be able to use it. So if we don't get this approval, it's kind of like we have a nice, gutted, beautiful building now, and it's going to be abandoned. So,
Ms. Watson, do you know who liquor store on the block?
Do I what?
Do you know who does own the liquor store?
So I'm not a trustee. If they do rent from the church, I'm not sure. I think someone even lives above the liquor store. I know they have it. I know they have multiple tenants, not just on Harford Road. The church owns a lot of property, but I'm not sure exactly. I have nothing to do with the liquor store though, so I'm not sure about that.
Well, how
I know we own the barber shop. We own the building that's the barber shop. They rent from us. And there's a tenant, a woman that lives next door to the church, and we own that building. So I think one of our trustees are on here though. Did anyone?
Right, there's Mr. Charles Watson, who has put in the chat, he's in support and would like to speak. I know it's out of order, but.
Yeah, since we have them identified, go ahead.
Okay, and Ms. Watson, if you could mute.
Sure, yep.
Mr. Charles Watson?
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, go ahead.
Good. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of the clinic. I believe that the negative condensation of drug rehab has kind of made this thing look ugly. There will be no drugs at this facility. The clientele that walks up and down Harford Road is not a direct correlation of the liquor store on the corner. The building has been dilapidated for many years, and to see it beautify should be a plus in our favor. Also, as well, there are other projects that have been done on the corner, whereas the building next to the church, which is 2020 Harford Road, is going to be a homeless cafeteria. The whole block has been beautified in the past 5 years, and there has been a direct correlation of the work that we have put in. To deny it being a clinic, you need as much help as you can, because he brought up 2 clinics that are also in the area, but we still have problems with addiction and people in the community. You want a certain type of clientele to come in the community. That is what we're trying to offer. I am a firefighter. I've been a service of Baltimore for the past 15 years in my community. And that one liquor store in the corner does not dictate the whole area up and down Harford Road. That the problems that are on Harford Road aren't of that liquor store. And that liquor store does more than just sell alcohol. They sell food, they sell candy, they sell medicine. So the negative correlation of that is not a reflection of the church. I am in support of this clinic. There are no drugs coming out this clinic. We had to clarify when we were going around getting petitions that this is not a drug rehab center. And that is the negativeness that, like someone that Mr. Washington is saying, there will be no drugs in this facility. You want to teach the community, you have to bring in people to teach them how to go out cleaner and better. And that's what's being offered, not drug treatment. It's a clinic, health, wellness. We want to change people from the inside and out. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Watson, what is your relationship to the project or the application?
I was a member at the church, but I've also seen this project from the ground up. I am a firefighter in the community. I have seen that area in its worst condition, and now I get to see it in its better condition. Shutting the clinic down or trying to not allow the clinic to continue, what does that benefit? It doesn't benefit a thing, because you may have people that I know they're trying to have Morgan State, kind of have what is in the community, but you may have kids at Morgan State that need help, and they may not want to go to some mainstream type of clinic as total health care. And if total health care and those other two facilities were doing such a good job that Mr. Washington is saying, then you wouldn't have as much traffic of negativity that is currently still out there. So I think the more clinic and the more counselors and the more people that you can help, then you can help. I'm also teaching CPR, EMT, and all that, to help the community. So it's not just drug rehab. There's no drugs there, and that negative connotation that has been put out is what I think is damaging to what we're trying to do, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. In light of that testimony, I have a question for you, Ms. Watson. What is the nature of I thought I heard you mention drug treatment in terms of the services being offered. What kind of service is going to be offered?
So I'm a primary care nurse practitioner, and I'm certified to do a number of things. Right now, I'm working at a Suboxone clinic. It's a drug rehab clinic, and my patients come in, they sit in my chair. I do counseling, and I send their prescriptions to a pharmacy, and they get it, and they come once a month. And then if they need more counseling than what I am licensed to give, then I send them to our licensed social worker or counselor next door. So my clinic is in Owings Mills, where I'm at, most of the time. But I'm also licensed, like I said, Mr. Watson, who called in, he's able to do CPR and first aid courses as a fireman. He's certified to teach that. I'm able, because of a certification I have, I'm able to also teach a medical assistant course, and I am able to do, physical exams, DOT physicals. And what else can I do? That's it. Sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. But I'm able to do those things. Everything I'm able to do, I'm excited about this. And someone had told me, well, don't say too much. But everything I'm able to do, I want to do in this clinic. Everything that I'm licensed to do, my dad and my pastor, his goal was for me to not have to work for someone else, work for myself, and offer my services to others. The church has a building. Again, we've helped to gut it out. It's already set up. It has exam tables. It has chairs. It's beautiful. There's paintings up, pictures up. All the equipment is in place. We just need it to be approved so we can hit the ground running. So to answer your question, yes, I'm able to treat opioid dependence through a medication that I don't give out. I don't ever touch it. I've never touched it, actually. I send the medication to the prescription, to the pharmacy, but I also do it. Primary care is what I'm able to do. When you see your doctor, Mr. Fields, and you get a physical and you get treated for whatever, if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, I'm able to do that. That's what I do now, all day, every day. But I want to start doing it at 2628 Harford Road on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 5.
Very well. Thank you. Are there any further questions from the board at this point?
Ms. Watson,
Yes, sir.
did you get permits to do the work on this building?
Did I get a permit?
Yeah, did you get permits?
To do what? To fix up the building?
Yeah,
No, the trustees did all of that. No, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Permits is to gut it out. We own it, so they fixed it up. And then, how did I end up here? I ended up here. I tried to get a fire inspection or something, and I think it was a fireman who told me. So I'm new at all this. First business owned, okay? The fireman was the one that told me you need to get a permit because it's a residential, like a house, a residential building. So we looked into it farther, and then they told me I had to go through you guys to get it changed from residential to commercial. And that's how I'm here. If it weren't for that fireman, I would have been up and running. I had no idea I had to go through all this. This is all new to me. I figured the church owned it. I will rent it, do my thing. I'm going through this channel because I was stopped in the process and told that because it's commercial, it's not commercial, but residential, that you guys had to approve it for the use of occupancy. Use of occupancy, that's it. The use of occupancy is what I didn't have. And the fireman told me I needed a use and occupancy certificate. And he said you have to go through zoning. And that's how I got here. If it weren't for Mr. Watson actually telling me I needed a use and occupancy to use it for what my intended use, I guess I would have gotten a huge fine because we would have been up and running. It was gutted out and fixed up and set up for a healthcare wellness center before I even applied for, I guess, the permit from you guys. So no, I don't have a permit. I don't have anything. I got stopped in my tracks and they told me to reach out to you guys. So it's a learning process here.
Okay. All right. Anything else from the board?
Did that answer your question? Did that answer your question, sir? I don't know what permit you. Okay.
Nothing
All
for
right.
me.
Okay. Very well.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, it looks like there's one hand raised.
Okay, let's.
Ms. Watson, if you could mute, please.
There's a hand
one of
raised.
the trustees. One of the trustees just texted me and said, yes, we always get permits from the city before doing work. So apparently we do have a permit to fix it up, sir, Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you.
Okay. I see the hand raised. Certainly there's one for Mr. Washington who's already spoken.
Right.
We'll not be hearing from him again, but I see another one, Jackie Williams. Is that the one?
Yes. Yes, and I'll unmute her. Ms. Williams?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Fine,
And are
go
you
ahead,
here?
ma'am.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of RCC. I will be, if approved by you guys, the triage nurse. And I wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Watson stated, that there never will be drugs in the facility. And it seems as if the people in the community who have spoken think that that's what's going to happen, is that we keep drugs and there's going to be people coming in to get their drugs. And, you know, just like you would see at Lexington, they're hanging, falling out all over the place. No, that's not the case. You know, just like Ms. Watson said, you come in, you get your vitals, you sit down and you speak to the practitioner, which would be Ms. Watson, and she prescribe, and then you leave. So there's never any medication in the facility to be given out to anybody, not even a Tylenol, to my knowledge. I'm not saying it's, you know, I'm not trying to be smart, but in terms of the Suboxone or hard medications, we will not have that. Natasha, Ms. Watson will, I will do the triage, then she will see and counsel and then prescribe. And that's how it works. And I just wanted to say that to, inform those who think that we will keep drugs in the facility. Absolutely not. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that information, Ms. Williams.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I think that's going to.
We will have vaccine. My comments are private to the host, but we will have vaccines down the road if I can get a grant for that. And vaccines, especially with COVID, that's definitely a positive thing to offer those that can't get into total health care or other places. So.
Okay. Very well. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Watson. We'll conclude the testimony there and move on to the next matter. Okay, Ms. Byrne?
All right, so our next matter is 507 South Durham.
You know what? Could we take a 2-minute break? I want to talk with the board member, Frank. I know we have some time constraints today.
Sure.
And it may require a new announcement regarding 3 board members if we do.
Yeah, I can. I've got another 30 minutes or so before I would have to depart.
Okay. Very well. Then we'll keep going. Right.
All right. So 507 South Durham.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call that one. I'm sorry. Case number 2020-233, 507 South Durham. The appellant is Mr. Adam Caballo. This is a request to construct a 4-story single-family row house. And I'll hear from staff and planning.
And Mr. French, I'll defer to you first, if that's all right.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Fells Point Historic District. Also noted very specifically with regard to the proposal in the application that this is for a new structure to be 23 feet 6 inches wide. The existing lot is 18 feet wide, and therefore there is a strip of land to be acquired from an adjoining property, and the applicant should indicate to the board what the status of that acquisition process is. It's going to require approval by the Planning Commission, since it would involve splitting the lot next door in order to make that strip of land available for acquisition and consolidation with this lot. That said, the applicant has been to the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation, and on January 12th received approval for the proposed structure's height, massing, and architectural concept. Details are to be finalized with CHAP staff. For these reasons, the Department of Planning recommends that approval of this application be subject to the conditions that the proposed construction is completed in accordance with plans approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation on January 12, 2021, and in accordance with the subdivision plan and development plan to be approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
All right, we have one letter in opposition. And I also believe that the individual in opposition is here to testify as well. Again, following up with what Mr. French stated, it is a height variance from 35 feet to 45 feet that the applicant is seeking. And let's see, hold on. Mary Ann Rodnicki is in opposition, but let me get the applicant on first.
Mr. Carballo?
Mr. Carballo, yes. Mr. Carballo?
Okay, there we go. I was just
Sorry
running
about
out of chat.
All right.
Have to be unmuted.
Welcome back, Mr. Carballo. Tell us about your project here, sir.
So the property is located at 505 South Durham Street. The ownership is the same ownership as at 507 South Durham Street. That we are doing a minor re-subdivision, basically shifting the property line over to gain more property at 505. So we're in the process of re-deeding and re-subdividing those two lots. 507, which is immediately to the north, is a 2.5-story row house that's currently under renovation. That's already been permitted and it's been presented to the DRC as well as the CHAP Commission. 505, which is why we're here today, is for a new construction single-family house. We are proposing a fourth story on this property. We've worked very closely with the Fells Point Design Review Committee as well as the CHAP Board, and the front of the property is actually a 2.5-story property at the front. The fourth story actually does not even start. We've actually set back the fourth story by 23.5 feet. We've also lowered the overall height of the property, which really came out as a function of comments back from the Fells Point Design Review Committee as well as CHAP. The total height is actually 38 feet and 5 inches. So we're not extending to the full 45 feet that is permissible with a conditional approval from the board. We've actually aligned, or just let me step back. Durham Street is a very narrow alley street of 15 feet. It has mostly 2.5-story, 3-story houses along that block of Durham. We have aligned the front of this building. The cornice line actually aligns with the adjoining properties, and we've worked very hard to bring the scale of this property down while still providing the fourth level, which would not be visible from the public right-of-way given its setback and the narrow width of the street. It would be visible from other adjoining neighbors, but from the public right-of-way, it would not be visible. And we've proven that through the use of three-dimensional modeling that we presented to not only to the CHAP Board, but also the Fells Point Design Review Committee.
Mr. Carvalho, would you like to share that, or?
That would be great if I could.
I'm just elevating you to a panelist.
Okay.
And I think I can pass the ball to you.
Okay.
There you go. So you can share now if you can. So
this is a rendering of the street view of our proposed property. You'll see that it's this property located at sort of midway up the page with the front-loaded garage, the 4 windows on the second floor, and then on the third floor we have 2 dormers that are in the same scale as other dormers along the street. And the fourth floor, because it's set back 23.5 feet, it's completely invisible from the public right-of-way. In building section, and obviously, to sort of speak about this rendering, we've worked very, very hard to keep the cornice line to run through and the other sort of height, scale, and massing of this property to fit in with the context of the adjoining properties. And you kind of see we did sort of a study where we looked at the roof slope on the third level or the upper half floor that the majority of these properties have on this block to really match that angle. Let's see. So you can see by this section and this front elevation, we've really set this fourth floor back quite a bit so that it reduces the overall impact to the surrounding context. And we've also lowered the floor-to-floor height. When we first designed this building, we had a much greater ceiling height. Our ceiling heights and our floor-to-floor distances match the adjoining properties. And we are at a total of 38 feet, 5 inches for overall height, for this property. Again, setback 23.5 feet from the front cornice line. That's all I had to present.
Okay. Right. I will take back, if you don't mind, the ball.
Okay.
And I believe Ms. Marianne Brodnicki is, and Mr. Carbello, if you could mute yourself. You're still in there. I believe she is on the line. She wrote her letter in opposition. So I will go ahead and call her. I think her letter in summary is basically the height. So no property exceeds 3 feet in height. So that was really her issue. So I will unmute Ms. Brodnicki. Ms. Brodnicki?
Yes. You can hear me, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually object to all 3 variances that are being requested because the lot line is being expanded 5 feet to the north. The rear construction is being expanded past, I guess, the standard zoning, and the height is also exceeds standard zoning. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which, I live one house over. So the mass in the back of the property will impact me as a neighbor. And the facade, the fact that the building is so wide at street level really makes it out of character with the street. And I don't understand how it complies with the zoning variance requirements in the code. So those are pretty much my objections as a neighbor. This will also have the impact of eliminating street access from the backyard for the 505 property. So once again, we will have a homeowner that will have to leave their garbage cans in the street, which is a problem that we already face. So thank you for your time.
Very well.
Am I allowed to respond?
You absolutely are.
Sorry, I was muted.
Go ahead, Mr. Cabello.
I guess to respond to that comment, the current property has a 2-car garage located at the extreme end of the property line, and we are actually providing a 12'2" rear yard setback that does not exist currently at the rear of the property. So we're actually providing a rear yard where none currently exists now. With new construction, we are required a rear yard setback, and that does necessitate the need for that rear yard setback is supposed to be larger than 12'2", but we are that is part of our request to allow the 12'2" rear yard setback as depicted on the site plan. I will say that there are adjoining properties that extend closer to the rear yard property line than what we are actually proposing as well.
On the same side of the street, Mr. Caballo?
Yes.
I do have a question. On our docket, the reference property, or the reference premises is 507 South Durham Street. Did I understand you to say earlier that the property at issue is 505?
No, 507. I may have misspoke. I may have misspoke. It is 507. So that is correct. It is 507. But the owner that owns 505 is the same ownership between 505 and 507. So I may have misspoke. 505 is north, 507 is south. 507 is the new construction property that we're presenting today.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Any additional questions of Mr. Caballo? No? All right. Well, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we here? So it was,
I think it's 2020-2058 Eastern Avenue.
sure. Let's move on to the next case on the regular docket, 2020-258, 2311 Eastern Avenue. Appellant, once again, is Adam Caballo, and this is a request to construct a fourth floor addition with a rooftop deck. And I'll hear from staff and planning.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
All right, we have 2 letters in support, one from the Canton Community Association and, yep, I'm sorry, just the one from the Canton Community Association. And we have 1 in opposition. Hold on 1 second. The opposition is from the neighbor at 2323 Eastern Avenue, objects to the 4th floor rooftop deck. Hold on 1 second, my screen just went out on me. And he's concerned about the weight and if a structural engineer gives the okay, he would have no objection to adding the 4th floor and the deck. All right, Mr. Carballo?
Yes. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, I will
to
pass the
orient
ball.
people.
Yep.
There we go.
Wonderful. So if you can see my screen, this property is located at the southwest corner of Patterson Park, and it is this property here that's outlined in red. What we're proposing is effectively a pilot house or a modest 4th floor vertical addition that would have a roof deck at the front and rear. Actually, almost exactly like the one that already exists at 2309, which is 2 doors down. We did present not only to, we presented to the Canton Community Association. We actually presented this very presentation that I'm showing you. We are asking for up to 45 feet, which, based on regulation is permissible as a conditional use. Specifically, we also looked very carefully with site studies, how this would impact adjoining neighbors. There isn't an immediate, obviously across the street in front is Patterson Park. To the rear, there are smaller houses that are sort of lower down the hill off Duker Court. By the time you get down to Fleet Street, these properties are quite substantially lower in elevation that would not have any views that would be blocked by the proposed construction. They simply are sort of trying to add a sort of a penthouse or sort of a rec room or home office type use at the very top to capture views of both the park as well as the harbor below. If you can kind of see in this aerial view on the right-hand side, there are no immediate properties directly behind them that would block any view to the park or vice versa to the water. You can also note the pilot house that exists 2 doors down at 2309 with a roof deck front and back that's been there for quite some time. To answer the question of the neighbor who is concerned, who lives at the far end of the block, we do have a structural engineer that evaluated the structure. We also, from my understanding, the basement was actually underpinned several years ago, which actually reinforced the foundation of this property. So we don't have any objections or reservations about adding this additional space, this additional volume on top of that existing party wall structure. And again, I'm sort of reminded that there's a very similar construction just 2 doors down that was built on a building that has a similar construction and done at a similar time period. And we presented this to the Canton Community Association, and not only received their approval, but also the support of, I believe, at least one adjoining neighbor, who I'm not sure is. It sounds like he did not send a letter in, but we did present that to the adjoining neighbors.
Yeah, I do apologize. We do have one additional letter of support from that adjoining neighbor, and I will just again state that the one letter that we received in opposition, it was not necessarily to the 4th floor addition or the rooftop deck as far as view or structure. The concern was the structure itself.
Correct,
that as
yeah.
long as the structural engineer certified that they could hold the 4th floor and the deck, then he would be okay with it.
Right, and like I said, we have a structural engineer that was involved in this project, and we can make their findings known to that neighbor if that alleviates any concern.
Okay. Very
I
well.
don't see any hand raising. I'll do my one. Let's see. And Mr. Carvalho, if you could mute yourself. And I'm going to take the ball back. And we have one Callin user. And I believe that's it for Eastern Avenue.
Okay. Very well. Just to confirm, no questions from the board, correct?
No, I'm good.
All right. Fine. We will move on to case number 2020-261. 3601 Hickory. I don't know if that's street or avenue or place. The appellant is Churchworks LLC, care of Josh Menti. And this is a request to use a portion known as 1014 West 36th Street as a social club. And I'll hear from staff and planning.
All right, Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Hamden Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area. It is also part of a designated historic site, and therefore the proposed use, if there are specific alterations to the exterior of the building that would be included with approval, is going to be subject to review both by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation staff and the Planning Department staff, because of those 2 separate overlays basically on the zoning of this property. There was no estimate of the number of persons, fire rated capacity for the parsonage house, which is the portion of the property that's proposed for use for the social club. And the department is concerned that there be appropriate arrangements made to provide off-street parking necessary to serve the proposed use. That said, the proposed use does need a complete site plan review, and the applicant is encouraged to contact the chairman of the site plan review committee to complete the process, which was begun in October of 2020, but is probably awaiting completion pending the outcome of this hearing. The department has no specific objection to the application and requests that if approval is granted, approval should be subject to the conditions that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, and alterations, are completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation and in accordance with plans approved by the Planning Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French.
There's a letter of opposition in the file from the Hamden Community Council. Issues raised by the Hamden Community Council include the that there's an undetermined purpose other than to facilitate members to congregate and socialize. We'll have an unknown number of members and events of the type and hours frequency to be determined. The organizer of the potential social club has remained anonymous. This information is inadequate to permit a social club as a conditional use, nor to apply relevant and appropriate conditions to the use that's being proposed. It's, again, unclear what the club will be, and Section 5-406 of the zoning code would have to be applied. And as Mr. French said, they'd have to go through site plan review, and we need additional information the board would need in order to place certain conditions. So the applicant that we have is a Josh Mente. Let me see if I can get Mr. Mente here. Mr. Mente?
Yes, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make you a panelist.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Mr. Mente, go ahead and tell us about your project, and if you can, please provide us specifics with regard to what this social club is intending to be, who it's going to service, number of members, hours of operation, all of those things.
Yeah, so I don't have all of the very specific details that you're saying in like minute exact number of members and all those kind of things. So the short answer to it is that I've been approached by someone to lease the smaller building to develop a social club in the Hamden neighborhood, much like the clubs that have been, very prevalent in years past that I think are making a recurrence. What's been expressed to me is a place where like-minded people can congregate and have a place to socialize. And that's the details I have at this point. I don't have a specific signed lease in place. It's more of if we can get the social club designation, then we can move to that phase of signing a lease, basically.
We understand it's a little difficult to get the designation without any knowledge as to who's going to be there, what they're going to do. It's a bit up in the air.
Sure. So specifically, you want to know that they plan on having events, or they plan on just hanging out on couches and conversating, or I'm just trying to.
Yes, I think a number of things. Hours of operation, what they intend to do there. Trust me, we've seen a lot, the gamut of social clubs, and they can be as different as night and day, but at least we know what it is and what's involved so that we can entertain, questions, troubleshoot, certain conditions that need to be applied.
Okay.
Any of those things, but just a request for a social club really doesn't give much to work with.
So in order, and I'm taking notes here, in order to get exactly what you need, you need specific use, hours of operation, and just so you know, I started this process back with the Hamden Community Association back in January. I got on a Zoom call, answered their questions, to the best of my ability, so on and so forth. And just yesterday received the letter that you received, and I'm in the process of actually getting the information that they're asking for. But I want to clarify, is it any different that you're asking for than the association's asking for, basically? That's why I'm asking.
I don't believe so. They're asking for details. They want to know, what's potentially coming into the community. And certainly we would like to know that as well, so we can assess, what safeguards, if any, are required.
All right, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if I could I think this might help. In the staff report, a larger social club is defined in the zoning code as a facility with limited membership, with members elected pursuant to charter and bylaws, excludes the general public from its premises or place of meeting, organized with officers, directors, elected pursuant to a charter and bylaws, holds all property for the common benefit of its members. It does not include an establishment that permits non-members to pay a temporary membership fee at the door in order to enter the premises. So it's an actual organization. So you have to have a charter, you have to have bylaws, there has to be officers. That's what, at least what the zoning code says. You have to just even start there.
Yeah. it sounds, Mr. Mente, that it sounds like this is a bit premature, given the limited information that you have, in particular with regard to what the organization even is or will be. One suggestion might be moving to postpone this matter if, to allow some of that to develop. Otherwise you may be stuck with a determination that might require you to wait 12 months to come back and try it again.
Yeah, certainly that wouldn't be the intended the best plan of action, I would say. So basically you're saying that the two options is to postpone it and try and figure out the answers to the question, get back with the community association, get all the details together that we can represent to you, and then hopefully get everyone on the same page with.
I mean, I think that's a viable plan. Am I speaking out of turn here, board? I mean, I think that might be something that may be worthwhile.
No, I think what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, and then you can certainly.
I think in order for us really to consider it, we're going to need a lot more specifics.
Yeah,
I agree.
Especially given some of the issues we've had. As you may remember, there was the biker social club, and then there was the marijuana social club. We definitely, normally we see some sort of business plan, rules and regulations of the club, what the membership situation is going to look like.
I got you. Okay. So I didn't realize that those existed. So I can understand your concerns about making sure there's not a marijuana social club or other nefarious, organizations or whatever else it might be. So you would need to see, or what you're asking is to have full bylaws and know. So it's not only just the designation for the property from a zoning aspect that it can house and hold a social club. What you're saying is in the same process, the social club that's actually going to use it would have to be done in conjunction with it.
Yeah, what we are saying is that you have to defer to the code and what that requires so that you can make the presentation that has all of the requisites in it, so that we can, one, acknowledge that it is or determine that it is a social club. And that's one of the issues, frankly, that comes up, is it meet the definition of a social club. And
Have you already talked to the Hamden Community Association about it?
Yeah, I proactively went in January, engaged with them, got on a Zoom call, answered all their questions.
Who's running it? Is it Ben Ray?
No, Eli Lopatin is running the association. I believe I pronounced his name properly.
Okay.
all right. Let me just ask Ms. Byrne, the letter from the Hamden Community Association, obviously it's a letter of opposition.
Right. They at the end of the letter, they say that they're not imposed in principle to a conditional use for a social club in an appropriate location in the neighborhood. And they say they have provided the appellant ample opportunity to share information about the proposal during a call on January 19th at a general meeting telephone conference and emails exchanges on January 25th. But they still don't have adequate required information to render necessary finding under the code, and they urge the board to postpone the resolution of this case until after that information is forthcoming and the proper consideration may be made through the latter hearing. And we also have a note in the chat on behalf of Councilman Torrance, the same thing. There's just not enough information.
Yeah, so I would say that the majority of...
I'm just trying to figure out, was the letter written before the Zoom call that he had?
No.
No, it was written after. We got it yesterday.
Okay.
Right. So basically what it was I reached out, and on January 22nd, I'm just going back through the emails here, and then on the 25th, we had the Zoom call, which I participated in. Let them know that the hearing was scheduled for the 23rd. Did not hear anything from them other than answering the questions on that Zoom meeting. I reached out to them on the 16th of February, said, hey, this is coming up. Just want to know if there's any more questions that you need answered, just trying to be proactive with it. And then on the 17th, I received communication back that they have another list of questions, which I answered for them on the 17th as well, within an hour or two, to the best of my ability, answered the questions that they had. And then I did not receive any more correspondence until yesterday saying we're sending this letter in to the council. So even within that situation from yesterday to today, I haven't had a chance to pull together all the information to get back to them. So, you know, from my perspective, I've certainly been proactive and tried to engage them proactively, both to meet with them and then also to follow back up with them. Because I live, work, and play here in the community. Well, not necessarily live, my address is not here.
Well, I think that the difficulty is you've given them the extent of the information that you have. And the problem is you don't have, frankly, a lot of information that's necessary even for us with this board to consider and make determinations. So if you'd like a postponement or like to request one, I think we're amenable to granting it. And you'd be placed back on the docket so that, and I would certainly suggest that you dig into the code, as Ms. Byrne highlighted some portions of it, to be sure that it can be supported, as a social club with the requisite information that we need to consider.
Fair enough. I understand. So 2 questions, if you don't mind me asking. When would the next docket be?
Well, we probably couldn't get you on until April or May.
Okay. And as far as getting the answers back and having all the questions that meet what the code says, as well as having continued conversations with the community associations, or anything else that would be necessary?
Well, I don't want to advise you as to how to go about doing what it is you do. You present the application, the code says what it says, and we have to take it all together and make some determination. So the best I can tell you is, the code has certain requirements. Obviously, we've highlighted some of them, and we're happy to entertain it. But in its present state, it's just insufficient information to frankly to grant you an approval for sure. So I think you have to go back to the well and
sure.
Make sure that you be over-inclusive as opposed to under-inclusive.
Got it. I can certainly do that, and that gives more than sufficient enough time. So yes, I guess a postponement at this point rather than actual denial, and waiting 12 months would be the best situation.
Okay. Very well.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So I guess in light of the postponement, I won't open anything else up to anybody that's here for the Hickory appeal.
Right. Since we have not actually carried through with the hearing. Gonna recall the matter. Don't know if it's a moot issue at this point or not, but what was on a consent docket, case number 2020-254, 925 Ramsey Street. The appellant is Stephen Wheeler to construct a 2-story rear addition. I'm not seeing anything online here on the participants.
We have one caller. Let me see if I can unmute the caller. Are you here for Ramsey Street? Nope. No hand raising, nothing in the chat. For Ramsey.
Okay. I think we have to put that down then as a no-show. We can't grant the consent, but and whatever it is we do with no-shows.
Okay.
We don't know. Could be any number of reasons why couldn't appear, but well, that'll be for another day.
Great. Okay.
And with that concludes the today's docket, and we'll proceed to the deliberation portion of the hearing.
Okay, and I will turn the recording off.
All right.